One of the hot topics in AI coding these days is the Ralph Wiggum loop. This was made months ago by Jeffrey Huntley, popularized by Dexter Horthy, Ryan Carson, and many others. And if you've watched The Simpsons before, you know that Ralph Wiggum is simple yet determined. And that's a great way to sum up what the loop is. On episode 76 of Tool Use, we're joined by Ryan Carson. He was with us on episode 49, talking about how he built a one-person company with the help of AI. Now, 5 months later, he's shipping faster than ever. So we're going to cover what the Ralph Wiggum loop is and how you can implement it yourself, other loops that Ryan has found create real value for him and his business, and we're going to both share some of our experience building in this phase of the AI revolution. So please enjoy this conversation with Ryan Carson.
Oh boy. So first of all, you have to know what The Simpsons is. So if you watch The Simpsons, Ralph is the hilariously doofy character that doesn't really know anything. And so the idea of the Ralph Wiggum loop was created by Jeff Huntley. So Jeff Huntley worked at AMP for a little while, and he came up with this idea of creating a bash script that just loops AMP or Claude Code or agent of choice and completes a list of tasks. And it sounds kind of dumb because it's so simple, but this is actually why it's beautiful. So here's how it works, right? So you have this idea for a feature or an app or a list of tasks that you want an agent to do. The idea is that it's supposed to be hard and complex, right? This is not anything that should be one shot. And then you create a list of tasks. You know, you can think of these as user stories. I use user stories with clear acceptance criteria that can be verified by an agent, right? You don't want any human in the loop for the acceptance criteria. And then you basically create a simple bash script, or you have AMP do it or Claude Code do it. I didn't write any bash myself. And it basically fires up the agent on the command line. So in AMP, it's AMP -X, which is execute, and then the string, which is the prompt, right? And you can do this with Claude Code. And you have the loop fire up the agent with a prompt. And then what the prompt is basically the user story that you want it to complete. And then the idea is it works. And when it's done, it stops. And then the bash script loops again and picks up the next story, finishes it, loops again, picks up the next story, finishes it, right? So it's literally just a loop completing a list of tasks. And again, people might think, well, I don't get it. Like, what is the point? And the idea is every time you get a fresh context window. And this is the magic, right? The idea that every time the agent starts, it has fresh context. So it's ready to go. It completes, it learns. So the way it learns is it uses the file system to store memories or things that it should remember for the next loop. I have this idea of, okay, you have long-term memory, which is usually your agents.md files. These are things that you need the agent to remember all the time, no matter when it runs. But then you have this kind of short-term memory of like, okay, I'm trying to build out this specific feature, and I'm running into some gotchas or a couple of things I've learned specifically about this feature. That's the type of stuff you don't want to start polluting your agents.md file with or your system prompts or anything. But you want the Ralph loop next time it comes around to remember it. So in the system prompt for the Ralph loop, you basically say, pick a user story from this JSON file, right? And the JSON file is just a list of tasks. You say, pick one that's not complete. And before you start it, read progress.txt, right? And this is literally just a file, in your repo. It's not rocket science. And you say, read it first, and then execute the task. And when the task is done, mark the JSON item as complete, and then update progress.txt with anything, that you kind of ran into that you should remember for other user stories in this feature. And if there's anything long-term that you think the agents should know, no matter what they're building in this repo, add it to agents.md and then quit. And you just loop. And, I think, a couple of folks like Matt Peacock have really summarized why this works so well. And it's because humans have figured out that this is the optimal way to work as a team. right? So you have sprints, you have a Kanban board with user stories, and what a dev would do is they would go up to the board and grab a user story because they think, okay, I can tackle that. I can do this in isolation. They go back to their desk and they work on it. They complete it, they ship it, and then they cross it off and they go grab another user story, right? This is exactly what a Ralph Wiggum loop is doing. It's just an agent instead of a human. And then you could massively parallelize, right? So you could actually have, 3 Ralph Wiggum loops running in parallel, working on different features on the same repo. And personally, now I just use different clones on my local machine. I don't use Git work trees. I find that confusing. So I just literally have 3 folders on my machine that are 3 checkouts of the repo. And if I have, a Ralph Wiggum loop operating, I just have them operating on different checkouts, and then, I'll, pull rebase and then commit. So it really works. I mean, I've shipped probably 6, 7 pretty big features. And then when it's done, usually it'll take a couple threads to clean it up, make sure it's 100% correct, do a really good, PR review on it, which you could do as part of the loop if you wanted. And then you ship it.
It's nice hearing it from your perspective, because when it first came across my radar, I thought, wow, this is a great way to burn a lot of tokens. And I mean, with the brute force approach of just trying and trying, you can get there eventually. But I do agree that what makes this really unique and have a lot of potential is the fact that you get a clear context window. You're not going to get the context rot that comes from most long-running tasks. You have static asset, or maybe not necessarily static, but editable assets that it can reference on each loop that can update. Yeah. And I mean, in Cursor, that tends to be my flow anyways, where I have a specific document marked down for the given initiative I'm working on. And after it does a certain task, I'm like, update the doc. And then the next thread is just, please review the doc. Let's get started. And just doing that a lot more manually.
Yep. I think it's interesting because it feels like we're all evolving in parallel, right? And a lot of us are discovering these same workflows in parallel and sort of ending up in the same place. And I remember, I launched a simple repo called AI Dev Tasks, probably a year and a half ago now. I was on Clairvaux's show, and I basically showed it. And it was so simple, it was dumb. It was like, okay, I'm going to start and I'm going to plan, right? I'm going to make a markdown file, PRD. I'm going to take that PRD, I'm going to break it down into tasks. I'm going to create a task file, right? And then I'm going to have the agent loop over the task. And at the time, this was like cutting edge. But a lot of people were arriving at that same workflow because the agents were limited that way, right? And now we've moved on past it, and I've literally removed that third file from that repo that says check. You need a human in the loop after each iteration, which is crazy. You don't at all now. So I ripped that out. But now this whole PRD to task planning to execution phase, it turns out it's even better with the Ralph loop, right? And it is token efficient. I think people, this is where I think Jeff got initially a bad name for Ralph, because people thought it was just this token hungry, ridiculous loop. But it turns out that the agent is actually very token efficient if you give it a clear user story, right? With clear acceptance criteria. It's actually probably more efficient than you being in the loop. So we're getting closer to what feels, like an automated team, but not quite.
I'd like to actually go over if you're aware of any differences between what Jeff's original vision was. And actually, sorry, quick note, a 5-line bash file, similar to how like successful theorems and theories come about, the elegance is in the simplicity. And a 5-line thing that can do this type of thing is just so cool. But is there a big difference between when these harnesses apply it, like Claude Code or AMP, versus Jeff's initial vision for it?
Yeah. So I think the simple difference is that it really should be executed in a bash loop. If you actually have the agent try to do it, it will often rot the context. So AMP has a pretty cool feature that the team is working on that should be shipped soon. It's basically tasks with handoff. Handoff is already live, but this idea of a atomic unit of a task that can have parents or descendants, and you basically spin up a thread, and it's actually a skill. So I wrote a Ralph Wiggum skill. And the idea is very similar to the bash loop, but the agent says, okay, here, go get the next task that is available. Read progress.txt, and then execute it. And at the end, mark the task as complete, update progress.t, and then use handoff to create a new thread. It's almost the same thing, but the agent is actually running the loop instead of the bash script. This is the primary difference, right, between the harness and the bash script. The problem is with the agent, sometimes you hit context limits, right? It tries to do a little too much. You kind of notice that it maybe is going a little bit where you don't want it to go, and you intervene, and then you blow out the context, whereas actually it would have been fine without you. But I think this is going to be solved. Like, give the agent labs 3 months, and they're going to figure this out. And I'm a big fan of AMP. Obviously, I use the tool. I've decided to step back from the team and focus on my startup full time now. So I'm not on the AMP team anymore, but I think it's a great product. I think, the Claude code team is thinking the same thing. I think Cursor, I think Droid, I think everyone understands that we're moving to a new paradigm where we are all agent wranglers and engineering managers. And there really isn't a place anymore for humans to write code. Like it doesn't make sense. And this is coming from a guy who, I got a computer science degree 25 years ago. I've taught 1 million people how to code at my last startup. Like, it's weird.
Yeah, we've crossed this threshold. I can't remember the last time I sat down and wrote an entire file myself, or more than just a line. I'd want to do a little tweak or edit, but that's about it.
I know. It's so weird. And, sometimes you feel a little lazy, like you're asking, the agent to do something you literally could do probably faster and quicker. But then you kind of got to open up your ID, and you got to open the file, and it's sort of like, forget it. Like, I'll just spend, 100 tokens to get it done.
Last week we had Eric Boos on, and he did Advanced Cloud Code. It was the second time on. A lot of great insight there.
He's great.
He's awesome. But he went really hard on the hooks and convinced me. I've started implementing them more just to give me more confidence that it's going to be done correctly. And I feel like a hook combined in a Ralph Wiggum loop will really be effective. But then you're starting to get more opinionated with it, trying to get more humans involved. Do you see room for these deterministic scripts being periodically called throughout these loops, or is that just kind of polluting the context?
I think it's where we need to be right now. I don't think the models are quite good enough without the deterministic harnessing on top. I actually think right now we probably need more deterministic harnessing than people think to really get good outcomes. But I think that will fade. It's my guess is that we'll probably see Opus 5, Gemini 3.5, GPT 5.5 or 6, and we'll realize we just don't need a lot of the deterministic scaffolding. However, I'm curious. Tell me more about the hooks and what it's accomplishing.
So the initial user submit query allows you to, or it's ideal for just making sure it has full context. So if this would be an ideal entry point for, make sure you have the to-do list, make sure you have the scratch pad, just getting it referenced there. And I feel like if it's all in the same directory, it's less important. But if you're kind of working from a master copy somewhere, and then later on, the pre and post tool calls helps with reliability. Did the tool work successfully? Is the response something that's reasonable? Is it actually relevant? And those are more of the LLM as a judge rather than just the pure deterministic. And then at the end, the stop condition. This is where Eric really harped on making sure that you use adversarial reactions, being like, if you were to look at this and try to poke every hole you can in it, what would it do? Get the response there, feed it back in, see if it can correct it, or if it's just a dead end, and then start the loop over again.
Interesting. I think that's a great idea. And he is such a pro. So I want to actually dig into that and look into it. There's a lot of rounding of edges that we need to do right now. Where, all of us that have been engineering for decades, inherently know these things, and the models do not, and they do need to be scaffolded in right now. But what's interesting is, like, it sounds like the basic idea between these or behind these hooks, and also the simple elements of the Ralph Wiggum loop, like read progress.txt, update it, verify that the next user story is the right one. All these kind of things are sort of a loop within a loop. It's like I would actually like to make a quick call, to an LM as a judge to do more of that. So I think that actually he's probably right on the money, and you're right on the money in that. I'm just not sure how long we'll need to do it. And I feel like we all have this kind of anxiety or confusion or messiness about our workflow right now, right? We want to add in all of these deterministic, programmatic ways to control the workflow. We know if we did, we would have better outcomes, but the ground is shifting underneath us so continually that you end up implementing maybe half of these ideas, right? Or less, because you think, oh my God, like I'm just not going to really need to do this. I'm just going to grind my way through it, until the model just does it itself.
I see. I mean, I remember I first heard of the Ralph Wiggum loop from Dexter Horthy, I don't know, 6 months ago. Like, it felt like it was ages, but I was like, there's too many changes. I am not going to implement it till there's a little more, force behind it. And it's just,
Yep.
it kept snowballing to something big. Your blog post went pretty viral. So it's just, it has been battle tested and proven that this is a valid strategy for this point in time with the current state of LM
Right.
capabilities.
For this like 1 month in time.
Yeah.
And a little, behind the scenes on that post. So I started to see people talk about the Ralph Wiggum loop. I thought, you know what, I should really give it a go. Like, I'm curious how good it is. So of course I fired up AMP and I was like, okay, here's Jeff's post. Like, help me set this up. And of course it, set up the bash script. It figured out the system prompt. We iterated a little bit and kicked it off. And then I think I shipped 2 features with it. And I was like, cool, okay. And then something inside was like, you should write about that. And so I just went back in the same thread in AMP and I was like, hey, AMP, why don't you write a blog post about what we just did, and how we did it, and so that other people could set it up too, and make it in Markdown, because I'm going to post it on X. Because I could tell articles were starting to get juiced by the algo on X. And so it pumped out, pretty good Markdown. I copied and pasted it into X, and then I edited it and massaged it a bit and changed the title to be a little bit more hooky. And then I hit post, and it you never know. But then as soon as it hits, right? Because I was like, holy biscuits, like all of a sudden it had 50,000 views, and then it was like 200,000 views. And I was like, oh, I think this is going to the moon. And it's like 1.8 million views now on that little article. It's hilarious.
So good. One area that I'd like to explore a little bit more is when you mentioned the acceptance criteria. It feels like one of those things where if you're off by an, it's like going to the moon. Off by an inch, you're going to miss it completely. You need to be pretty precise. And if you just let Ralph go overnight, I feel like bad acceptance criteria could lead you down a wrong path. Have you experienced that to be true? Is that like an unfounded caution?
Very much. Oh my God, very much. So mostly I'm building a web app, right? So my startup is called Untangle. It is a divorce AI agent. It's a Next.js app. And it's a lot. It's mostly web UI, right? And so I need a lot of good web interface testing, right? And so I was really struggling, with sort of hodgepodging, Google Chrome DevTools MCP with some custom, skills, with all sorts of stuff, and I would have acceptance criteria around browser testing, and this is like clearly important. But as we all know, like browser testing and front end UI stuff is just really hard with agents. But I think as soon as Vercel shipped Agent Browser, it has been a big unlock. So it's basically you install it, and then there's a skill attached to it. And it has really unlocked browser testing for me as an acceptance criteria. And I'm not being paid to say that. I'm not being paid to say anything here. And it's very good. So I would recommend people dig into that. And then you specify that when you have acceptance criteria that involve front end testing, that it should use, X, Y, Z, whatever it is. I say you have to use Agent Browser. And then it's much better. you know, and then I realized, wait a minute, like 10 of these user stories at the end of this loop, should be browser testing or very edge casey, user test because you can. Like, I think often we go back to sort of a human instincts, which is, oh my God, testing is so expensive and hard. I'm going to do the happy path plus like a couple edge cases. But you don't need to do that anymore. You can do the happy path plus 100 edge cases, like if you're happy to pay for the tokens. So in my Ralph Wiggum loop, I actually have a skill to create the PRD and the user stories for Ralph loop. And I've actually wound that into the skill itself. So I just I invoke the skill, and then the skill says, okay, are you wanting to create a new PRD for a Ralph loop, or did you already create one and you want me to execute the task? So I'll say number one, and then it walks me through, a pretty standard prompt around creating a PRD. And then after that, it starts fleshing out the user stories. And in that prompt to build out these user stories, it's like you have to refine and refine and refine those user stories with good acceptance criteria. And this is where you just can't fall asleep at the switch. Like, I think defining a good Ralph Wiggum loop takes an hour minimum. This is not a 20-minute thing. You need to grab a coffee and engage your brain and really write a good PRD and good user stories, and then look at them and see if they're actually testable by an agent without any in the loop. Otherwise, you just end up at the end having to spend half a day, fixing things that were poorly specified.
And that really does feel like the latest developer skill, where you have to be able to think through as concretely and thoroughly as possible to create these documents, create these even just conversations with these AI agents in order to get the results you want.
Yeah, and this is where, I think we're all still a little baffled at the lack of common sense with the models. It's one of those things where I'm still surprised sometimes where I forget to say something, to specify something because it just seems so damn obvious to me, that you forget. And we're still not enough, even though these things are in my agent.md files. Like, I've done the work, people. Like, I'm not shortcutting here. There's just a couple times where you're like, how did you not know that? So we're still there. And it feels like you should be able to solve that with another loop. Like, surely I could have another loop, which looks at my loop, which checks my loop, which checks its loop. But sometimes you just need a human still.
Yep. Can't quite be loops all the way down yet. You mentioned Agent Browser, which is really cool. Are there any other tools or libraries you recommend or have experimented with that help make the Ralph Wiggum loop more reliable?
Not specifically Ralph. I would say I'm using Anthropic's front-end designer skill a lot. It's just a great skill. Like, it really often takes kind of a sloppy, AI agenty UI and really cleans it up in a really nice way. And sometimes you just need a nice deck, or you need a nice, holding landing page for something. You just don't want it to look AI-y. So that one's good. Also, I keep seeing the praises of Vercel. I'm not paid by anybody to say these things, but they just released a specific set of skills for React, for Next.js, and npm install them and have all these magic skills. So I think skills are really where it's at right now. And because they're progressively discovered as well, they're not polluting your context. And, I'm pretty bullish on those. So those are a couple of the things I'm using more of. I have actually a lot of FOMO right now because I don't have a Mac Mini sitting here running some sort of Claude loop. And I've just heard everybody raving about Claudebot. What's Pete's thing called?
I'm not sure.
Claudot. This is the problem. These are these things I need to know. There's this basically. The idea is that Pete Steinberg has released this framework where you basically fire up a Mac Mini and then you install Claude on it, and it can basically do anything, and it becomes this assistant for you. And I'm like, I'm just not doing enough. I need to do more.
Yeah. That actually reminds me back in the Open Interpreter days. Someone took a Mac Mini, installed Open Interpreter on it, gave itself its own email address, its own iMessage, and it could just communicate through your phone to this little device, have it do anything you want. So yeah, we're gonna see these magical things. I actually just got my little Reachy Mini set up.
Oh,
So
cool. I want one of those
so
so
there
bad.
will be more videos on that coming.
It should be over your shoulder, like cheering us on.
I want to get in the background, but also it's gonna be my little like accountability buddy, just making sure I'm like getting up from my desk enough, help me plan my day. So I have a lot of ambitions for it. But yeah, just hardware, just offsetting. And the thing is, sorry, the reason I brought that up is it has a Raspberry Pi on board, very limited in terms of processing power, can still do some cool stuff. But I have a MacBook with 96 gigs of unified RAM. So I'm just creating a little live kit tunnel. So now I can have all the heavy processing on my Mac, keep it fully local, but I still get the camera into bidirectional communication from the robot.
What a time to be alive. And like,
I know.
you and I would never do these things because it would just be too much work to code it without agents. But now, you could probably crank that out in like an hour. And that would be like a whole year project before.
Yeah, because it's not just the actual building, it's learning everything you need, all the prerequisites coming up to it.
Yeah. I had a dinner recently in SF with some friends and we were all just marveling at how much fun we're having. And it feels opposite of the impending doom that we all know is sort of coming for software engineering and all of the media hype that we're hearing about the traditional SWE role. And it just makes me think that we're missing something, that we're missing, the explosion of creation that's going to happen, and the joy that comes from that. I was saying, I'm micro gaming now. Like I'm 48. I've got kids that are old. I literally haven't gamed for like 18 years because I don't have time. Like between being a CEO and a dad and a husband, I've got no time. And the other day, obviously, I'm waiting for AMP to do something that's like 2 minutes and I can check X or I can play a game. And so Andrew Milich, who works at Cursor, he created this open source game called ISO City, which is basically SimCity. And, I fired up in a browser, I play it, I committed some code to it, which got merged. And so, I'm doing that more now. And that's only because of agents. Like, so I'm very excited about the future. I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah. I think there was a tweet put out recently by Kyle Corbett saying he really struggles to see a future where the 50 percentile or a software engineer has a role. But I think that's just viewing it in the lens of what software engineering has been up to this point. Yeah. But when you get into the idea of orchestrating and problem solving, none of that changes. It's just we're no longer writing syntax and we're able to amplify our delivery speed so much that we're just creating value in one way or another.
Yeah, it feels like we're magicians now. You have a wand now, whereas before you had sort of a hammer, and some nails, and it was harder and slower. Whereas now you just wave your wand, and it still takes creativity and hard work, but it's so much more fun. So one other thing I want to mention that I've learned, and I think a lot of people are getting this as well in the vein of loops, is that there's a lot of other areas you can apply a loop to your life. And so we have, so for my business, we have lead capture tools, right? So when you're thinking about divorce, you're probably thinking about child support, right? Like, how much child support am I going to get or pay, right? So we have a form people fill out, and they enter their details, and then at the end, they give us their email, and then obviously they go into an email drip, right? A fun kind of extra thing that's happening there, and I just talked about this on Andrew's show, was how those emails get written, but I'll leave that for his show. But now we've got click data, right? So we know if people are clicking on these emails because it's in my database, right? And that's a whole nother thing, is like, basically I've built an entire SaaS tool, for my email marketing pipeline. But hey, and so obviously all the click data is going to my database, which I love because I own it. And I was thinking about it. And the other day, I'm like, I really would love to know kind of what's happening here with this data. And I was like, well, duh, I should just ask, Opus 4.5. And so what I did is I set up a cron job where basically I pull in the right context from the database. Here's the email drips, here's the number of clicks, here's the conversion rate from each step. take all that data and give me some insight and then email it to me in the morning, right? So every morning I wake up with insight. It's like, hey, here's what happened, with the email drips. Here's what was clicked on here, what wasn't. Here's something you should do about it. And it's like, that's something I would used to have to pay a VP of marketing $200,000 a year for. And I just got that for 15 cents. So that's fun. But then it loops again, right? So then one of the suggestions from Opus 4.5 was like, well, these 4 people have clicked on more than 3 emails. You should probably do something about that. Like, why don't you reach out to them? And I'm like, oh, that's smart, Opus. Thank you. And then I was like, oh, well, let's create another loop, right? So I was like, great. Now I want you to create another cron job that, based on that report, if it finds anyone's emails or they've clicked on something more than 3 times, I want you to put them on another email drip. That's an email from me inviting them to a phone call. Wrote it, committed it, pushed it, and the next morning I woke up to an email reply from one of our customers on the email drip asking to meet me. Right? So the everyone should be thinking about the loops, right? And how you can compound the knowledge into wisdom, into action, because it's basically free, right? It's 15 cents a loop now. So how can you use that to actually create action? Because the other problem is you end up with, analysis paralysis, like just too much information. And so that's why have another loop run, synthesize information into an action, and then maybe even trigger a Ralph loop to implement the action, and then wake up to a PR instead.
Very cool. Do you have any guidance or experience on when a task is either too simple for a loop or how? Because kind of I'm thinking like the GPT-5 approach. You can send it any request and it chooses the model. Is there a heuristic or a plan that you have where for a given task, loop it, single one, or like super hard type thing?
I wish I did. I wish it was more scientific. It's totally a gut feeling. And again, this is kind of where, when you have experience, shipping a bunch of stuff for a bunch of years, you kind of can size things in your head, like, oh, this is small, medium, or large. And so, no, I don't have any fancy method. Probably you should put it, include that in your Ralph skill, where as you're chatting through a PRD, it determines that for you. But then the problem is you have to decide to start the Ralph loop, which means you're probably tackling something large. It might be a good idea to build a skill that actually is called sizing, which it sort of pipes up and it's kind of like, this is too much. This is too much to bite off. Like, we should be breaking this up into a loop.
Do you take inspiration from certain skills that are out in the wild? Do you just get the idea, I would like it to do this better, so write a skill for it?
The only skill I've written was the Ralph skill so far. The rest of them I just steal. So I actually bought some the other day. So the Boring Marketer, who's a great AI marketer, he actually had a list of skills that I paid $200 for, and they were absolutely worth it. One was sort of how to write compelling email drips. One was like market copy that converts. So I just bought those. But I would say most of it is being on X and then seeing smart people that I respect say, I use this skill, and then I usually try it. Hence being the agent browser was, I was following a bunch of smart people and they said that it was good. So I mainly just copy and steal, but not steal illegally. Nice steal.
Yeah. Yeah. And actually, the idea of paying for skills does make sense because, you're going to get value out of it. When you took a look at these skills, was there anything, without going to specifics, was there anything that surprised you, or was it just really like a distillation of his experience and expertise kind of put into a skill?
It didn't surprise me. It was just a good distillation. And I think that's probably mostly what's going on here, is that these are all things that either we know vaguely, or we don't remember, that we theoretically could work with, Claude or AMP or GPT-5 to write our skills. But the problem is sometimes you don't know to even ask to make the skill.
Right.
So it's kind of interesting, because one of my previous businesses before Treehouse was an in-person training company. So we would actually do workshops in person, how to build a PHP enterprise web app. And people would pay to go to these one-day conferences to learn a chunk of information. And it's not something they couldn't figure out by just reading an O'Reilly book, right? But the teacher, distilling it, I think the word you use is good. Like they distill it down to a chunk of information you can understand and absorb and then action. And I think that's what's happening with skills or packs of skills. The problem is, I almost mistakenly open sourced the boring marketer skills. I felt terrible. I like put them in my skill directory, which is a repo, and I open sourced that because I wanted people to see my AMP skills. And I was like, oh shit, like his skills aren't. So I had to remove them. So the problem is they're almost too shareable.
Mhm.
I don't know how well the IP is protected because they're literally just text files.
Yeah.
But I think curation is often the value. I mean, why is your show great? Because you curate the content, right? So I think people are going to start to pay for that taste, that curation more, as we see a proliferation of knowledge.
I agree. Do you still use MCP at all, or has skills kind of replaced that
I do.
adding information into? Okay.
So I use two MCPs a lot. One is Sentry. I love it. So Sentry has a great MCP where you're like, hey, look at this issue, or what issues do we have? And it's just really good. And Sentry is amazing. And again, not being paid to say any of this, I just love Sentry. And I use the Fizzy MCP. So 37 Signals has a simple Kanban board called Fizzy. And I was using like Linear, and I was like, oh my God, it's too much. Like, I do not need this much functionality. And then I was like, oh, I'll just use like Markdown. Like, why do I even need, a Kanban board? But I kind of like a nice UI sometimes. And so
Yep.
fizzy.do is their free Kanban board tool, and it's got an MCP. And so I just use it to say, hey, is there any tasks right now that you can knock out? That's the only two MCPs I use. I did use Chrome DevTools, but now that I have Agent Browser, I don't need it specifically because it's wound in, via Playwright and that skill. So those are the only two MCPs I use. How about you?
Very few, actually. I still use Linear. I think part of it is to make sure the team stays engaged with Linear. So, lead by example. I'm using it. Make sure you can too. So I was leveraging the Sentry API because I have this theory that you can build a pretty robust self-healing system by taking the trace log or the stack trace from Sentry, feeding it in, and trying to have a PR generated. Haven't totally got that running successfully yet. The idea of an MCP is really cool, but I kind of want it to be more of a background process. So maybe,
Yep.
you get Claude Code running in a loop, have it access to the Sentry MCP server, and maybe if an error comes in, it can do it. But I don't know. I got to start thinking loops more.
Well, I think actually self-healing, I think we're all experimenting with that, right? Like I really shouldn't be, trying to solve bugs manually. Like the system can know when they happen and heal and create a PR. Like this should all be pretty automatic. So I think we're all realizing that, but it is messy and hard, isn't it? To like actually get a good self-healing PR. There's a lot of false positives, and it's interesting because they have a tool now, and I forget the name of it, but it's an assistant that you can fire off. And it's like $20 a month. And I was thinking, maybe I'll try it, but I haven't pulled the trigger on it. And I probably just should. I think we're all in this world now where you can build any software yourself now. And the question becomes, should I build it or should I buy it?
Yep.
And I think it's all up in the air. Like people will probably say, why in the world do you buy Fizzy? That's hilariously dumb. Like it's just a Kanban board. But I'm like, I like it. I don't want to maintain that code, right? Even if it's the agent. So where do you think we're going with build versus buy on dev tools?
It's changing a lot because and it also part of our problem, I'm assuming it's both of our problem, is the joy of the build with it being this magical moment. It's like, of course I can do it. Of course I can build my own email drip management software. And it's sometimes fun to just bring everything in house. You get full control of the data. But yeah, one tool I want to give a little shout out to, also not being paid, but greptile as a PR review.
Oh, I
Every PR
wanted
that
to
goes
try
out.
that.
So I have a fleet. I have Claude, I have Codex, I have Cursor, Bugbot, and greptile running on all the PRs to go through. And they're all good at their own different things. I would actually put Claude at the bottom of that list,
Really?
even though I like Claude and other things. One of the issues is when you update a PR with new changes, you solve some of the issues. Claude still takes the old code or the old comments into context. So it'll be like, you have this critical issue. Oh wait, it's been solved. It's too much throwing back and forth.
You're like, buddy,
Um,
come on.
Yeah, get it together. Cursor Bugbot and Codex are both good. They find like good race conditions. They make connections to other parts of the code. But Greptile comes out with a very thorough analysis.
Ooh.
There's a nice sequence diagram just so you can help visualize it. It keeps the human engaged with it, which I think is important because as we get more AI written code pushed up, I still want that human in the loop reviewing before it merges to master or merges
Yep.
to main.
Yep.
So I don't want to
Okay.
allow everything to be out the way. But yeah, Greptile,
Greptile.
check it out.
Cool. I've been thinking about I'm trying to pick my bug bot of choice because I'm not consistent enough, right? Like usually what I'll do is I'll this is the problem. Like sometimes I'm like, let's just work on main. I can't be bothered to, even create a branch, which is bad. And it's because I'm the only dev. Like I can do whatever I want on Untangle. I don't need to coordinate with anybody. But I think the discipline of creating a branch is often important because then you can do a code review, right? Whereas it's a little bit harder if you're just working on main. So I'm a little note to myself. Okay, Ryan, work on branches more. Number one. Number two, pick a PR bot, like a review bot, whatever it is, like whether it's Bugbot or Greptile, just do it. Because I was trying to hand crank it by like using the Oracle and AMP, which is great, but it's the process isn't baked in. So I mean, how much does Greptile cost? I presume it's like pretty nominal.
I think it's the $20 a month classic SaaS these days.
$20 for infinite knowledge. All right.
Man, it's yeah, just the confidence it gives me and the time it saves versus fixing an issue when it reaches production, worth it for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
And actually, I've been experiencing something similar. I was the sole engineer at Box One for 4 or 5 months. Brought on Richardson lately, who's been awesome. But the
Nice.
idea of going from 1 to 2 is massively different engineering processes.
Gosh. So what are you
yeah,
encountering? Because I'm gonna encounter this. I'm curious. Teach me so I don't have to make the same
So
mistakes.
honestly, the big thing is just like making processes. Same thing for me. I'm like, oh, there's a bug fix, just straight to main. Like, who cares? Just send it. But now making sure there's like a proper review process. Database migrations. That's been an
Ooh.
issue where we're working on things simultaneously. Both of us change the database. You go to merge. Oh, now we have to make like a merge head onto. I use Alembic through
Okay.
Python. It's been good, but as soon as you start running into migration issues, it's like, okay, before I used to just run it manually on my computer, update production. Now I need to lock that down and make sure that we have it
Right.
automated in the CI/CD. So yeah, I would just say anytime you go against what you know is the best practice, because it's simple, it's easy, it's convenient. You're a team of one. Try to put guardrails on it. Try to make
Yeah.
sure that there is the option for multiple paths to converge safely.
Yep.
But it's one of
Smart.
those things, growing pains. It happens.
Well, and probably you're setting yourself up for better teams of agents by doing that.
Yeah.
And so I should be doing that anyway. It's interesting because like so in my past life, so start off as an individual web developer. That was fun and easy. And then I started companies, and then I started hiring engineering teams, and I got abstracted away from the machinery of shipping, right? And these are all things that like my VP of Eng and my CTO would laugh and say, "Well, duh, Ryan. Like, of course, these are the processes that, of course, you should have in place." But I think all of us now are sort of being put into, "Oh, I'm a CTO now." Like, I may be a CTO of one, but pretty soon I'm going to be CTO with either humans or agents, on my team, and I need to know how to orchestrate that. So it's kind of fun to be learning all these lessons. I wonder if it feels like there is a company or a service here that somebody should launch, which is like agentify, your process because it's important.
When you talk about having like 3 clones of a code base operating on each of them, do you have any insight to like the orchestration aspect? Do you just manually context switch from one to the next? Is there any, oh, this one's done, give a little ding or something?
No, I don't think any of us have really figured this out. And what is the UI even here? Like, and we talked a lot about this at AMP, and I know everyone's talking about it. But what is the UI of agent orchestration? Because that's where we're going. And I know the team is working on some exciting things, and we'll see what happens. But no, it's pretty messy and manual right now. And I honestly feel it's terribly unoptimized. I posted a tweet where I was just like, I have massive FOMO now. Like, I feel like if my agents aren't running 24/7, I'm falling behind. And I think there's this and it's real, and it should be real fear that we all have now that everybody can ship so much faster, and you will fall behind, and your moat will disappear. But then it's like, okay, well, what are you shipping all the time? Like, and is it the right stuff even? And so there's this whole sort of I don't even know what to call it. It's sort of a introspection into the actual process of building a company and a product, and how fast you can actually move when humans are no longer a factor. Maybe we just need AI CEOs and we should just get out of the way.
Yeah. Are you familiar with Bordy at all?
No, what's that?
So Bordy is like an AI VC where it's
Oh,
trying to source deals, audit deals, do all that for AC. So I mean, I feel like we have the AI from the engineering side coming in, the AI from the VC side coming in, and we still have this control in the middle. But I mean, besides taste and distribution, I can't think of too much else of a remote these days.
you know, it is strange. I do sort of wonder. And so if I had this loop that's saying, here's one action item that you can do today to increase, your sign up rate, or one action item you can do to make the code, stronger, harder, better. Like, then what if I just set the agent to actually do all this? Like, would you end up actually with something good, or would it just go into madness? Or, I don't know. I think we'll find out.
Fun experiments to run.
Yeah.
I do want to touch on before we wrap up. Did you have any massive failures implementing one of these loops? Any lessons learned that you think someone who wants to like loopify their digital experience can skip the failures to get to success faster?
Yes. I think the biggest problems I had were when I didn't spend the time specifying the user stories and acceptance criteria. And I know we touched on that, but it's worth saying again. It really is worth spending some time there. I think that's the biggest failures I had by far. And a lot of those acceptance criteria, they came down to browser testing when I didn't have the tooling set up for the agent to have the correct feedback loop. I would say you've got to set up good feedback loops. And it's as simple as like use agent browser as, your feedback loop for front end. Great. I think that's one thing. I think, when it does, there's a couple things with database migrations where, it can get pretty gnarly pretty fast if you're not careful. So that's always scary, you know, and when you see sometimes that the agent wants to like run a migration on prod, and you're like, what, oh my God, I swore I put that in my do not allow list, like, or, I have a, pre-push hook, like that should have stopped that. Like, but there's still these things that sometimes seem like they're about to happen that cause chaos. So those are a couple of the things. I would encourage people to try this stuff. The repo that is in my tweet article and my Twitter article is something you should be able to point your agent at and just say, set up Ralph for me. And so I think that's a Snark Tank / Ralph on Git,
Nice.
and it's open source. And so try it and see what you think. I think you're gonna like it.
Love that. We'll include links down below. One note on the PRD, one technique I found that's been pretty helpful is instead of just having an AI assistant try to help you write it, actually have it just interview you, where it asks you a series of questions, knowing the context, so you come up with the answers and you have to put the thought process through it rather than just offloading that. But you're still getting the benefits of acknowledging blind spots and just thinking about things from different perspectives. But I do try to put the onus of the critical thinking on myself as much as possible.
That's smart.
I got to keep this thing sharp,
You have to use your brain sometimes. That's actually a good idea. I love that. Otherwise, I think people should just try, and use the tools. There's never a dumb question now because you have an infinitely patient, smart tutor to help you, and just try. It's a lot of fun.
Awesome. Ryan, it's been awesome talking to you again. How can people keep up with you?
I'm on X all the time, so just look for Ryan Carson, one word. I sometimes go to LinkedIn, but only when I hate my life, and so I try to stay on X when I can.
Thanks for listening to my conversation with Ryan Carson. I love having Ryan back on. It's great to talk to an entrepreneur who's also a builder, also experimenting with the latest and greatest, and it seemed like a perfect opportunity to talk about this loop that I kept hearing about that I just hadn't given a fair shot yet. I hope you start thinking in loops. Where can you apply AI to a process, not just an individual step, but have something continually looking, continually learning, continually evaluating what it sees in order to create a better outcome? Don't just get it to create data points, get it to create insight, action, things that actually you can derive value from. I hope you enjoyed this conversation, and I'll see you next week.